Welcome to Theory of Conspiracy. A couple of northern lads from the UK discuss plots, cover-ups, and the unexplainable.
Hi, I'm Andy the Skeptic.
Hello, I'm Carlos. I believe.
If you would like to support the podcast, please talk about this with your friends or give us a review on iTunes. You can comment or contribute at TheoConPod, that's at TheoConPod, or check the link in the podcast description.
Hello Theocons, welcome to Season 2 of Theory of Conspiracy. Andy and Carlos are back. Today is Wednesday the 13th of January 2021. If you're all caught up on previous episodes, you'll have heard us mention that we're having guests on board for Season 2. Well, some of the episodes at least. I keep calling it an interview. It's not really an interview. It's a chat with a guest, but we'll see how we go.
Sounds formal, that, doesn't it? Interview.
Yeah. There's also the opportunity to be involved in the recordings by joining our Twitch channel, which is recorded every Wednesday evening. So even if you're listening to this way in the future, come and check that out and hear the current podcast recording or one of our general social chats where any topic goes. If you've listened to the end of Season 1 and the bonus episodes, what did you think? Did you like the Carlos show? I think that was bonus episode 2. A little laugh from Carlos there. And if you have, you'll also have heard some examples of the live stream interaction, so you know what to expect. So tonight in the live stream, we've got Mr. Paris, Matthew Dale 147, Commander Kremen. Kate's just jumped on. Hi, Kate. This is the news. We've got an iTunes review, and I said I'd read them all out. So this is from Crimulus08, titled The Parliament of Facebook. 3 stars for the guy doing his research. None for the guy making conspiracy theory lovers look like morons. Facts based on what someone said on Facebook. I love conspiracies, but this guy is laughable. Right, Carlos, that definitely deserves talking about, because when I read that, 3 stars for the guys doing his research sounds like me. But facts based on what someone said on Facebook also says like me if you listen to the COVID episodes, because I'm basically fighting against facts that I was sent on Facebook. So both of those sound like me. I've no idea which one is me. The guy doing the research or the guy making conspiracy theory lovers look like morons. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was aimed at me or you or both of us. It's probably aimed at me, really, probably. So I'm probably the well-researched one. Yeah, definitely well-researched one, me. But I read it.
So I'm the one making people look like idiots.
Yeah, that's yeah. Because I don't communicate much on people with on Facebook, so I don't know. But I think it's probably aimed at me, because he loves conspiracies, so he's probably talking about the way I talk about the conspiracies.
But that's it. He loves conspiracies, but I like to diss him. I'm not sure. I'd love Crimulus. He's probably not listening with a 3-star rating. But what about the chat room? Who's who? Is Andy the guy doing his research, or is it Carlos?
Well, the thing, all my research is done through years of reading from the age of since I was a kid. So all this research to me is like everything I know. It's not something I've read on the back of a Kellogg's box. It's all books I've read, documentaries, myths passed down from father to son, kind of thing. So everything I know is read or researched or watched on TV.
But anyway, regardless, 3 stars, 1 star, no star, 5 stars. Yeah, love it. It's got us talking, hasn't it? Hi, Bobby. Bobby's joined us on the chat room. Hi, Bobby. Okay, so Facebook post. There is a Facebook post that we need to talk about. Sharon left us a comment on our competition post saying, just listen to the last COVID podcast. From an NHS worker, I'd actually like to slap Carlos across the face. I told her that I'd said I'd make sure that you get it. Unfortunately, we can't meet face to face, so she's put, good, give him a good shake. The doctors that have worked through COVID are heroes, and some have lost their lives. They should be respected, not accused of such ludicrous actions as putting someone on a ventilator to hit targets. Rant over.
The answer to that is I never question people's work ethic. I was questioning the behind the scenes, sometimes target driven. Obviously, we're not going to talk about COVID tonight, but that's what I was talking
Yeah,
about.
we don't want to get into it, but it definitely, when I kept saying to you, and I can't imagine most of it was on the editing room floor with me saying, Carlos, people are not putting people on ventilators to hit targets. I must have said it 100 times. Okay, so talking to Facebook, yep, we are still running a t-shirt competition. If you're listening to this and you think you might have missed it, or you think that the odds of winning it way outfar the effort of logging onto Facebook and having a look at the post and seeing how to enter, then definitely think again, because as of the recording, we've only had about 15 entries, so the odds are pretty good. You got a 1 in 15 chance of winning yourself a t-shirt. As far as the end date for the podcast, again, for people that maybe are listening to this in a couple of weeks' time, it's probably going to run for the whole of season 2. Can't nail down a date on how long that's going to take, because normally we do an episode every 2 weeks, but it's COVID. We've also got guests lined up for certain episodes, so it's all about trying to get hold of those guys as well, and they don't all live in the same country, so there's time zone issues and things to worry about. So we can't promise it will be every 2 weeks, so we can't. It's pretty hard to put an end date on it. So pop over to Facebook, have a look, and if the post's still there, then you're still in the running. If you don't like the logos that are available, feel free to send me an image and request an image. If you're the winner, I'm happy to do a bespoke image, and we change the image every single week for the live stream. So we've got a bit of a weird spacey time tunnels thing going on at the moment. So yeah, any picture pretty much goes as long as I can get it past the censorship. And last but not least, hope you're enjoying the podcast. If you are, share the love. And if you're an Amazon Prime member, then come and give us a sub on Twitch. It's absolutely free because you're already paying for it. It costs you nothing. Just Google it.
Listen up. This is the main bit.
I'm going to put a video up of, I keep calling it an interview. It's not an interview. It's just more of a special guest chat sort of thing. The topic is time travel. The chat we recorded for about an hour and 50 minutes, and I've managed to cut it down to an hour and 6. So we'll get on with it.
Just going to say, It's great to be back on season 2, and like you just said, we could have gone on for hours, but yeah, it was great having a 3-way conversation on that. So I really enjoyed it. So hopefully you enjoy it as well.
Right, so it's Saturday the 9th of January 2021, and we'd like to welcome our special guest for this episode. Some people say he's known as the Pool King of Warrington, and that he owns a fusion-powered DeLorean, and he's known to have the power of love. All we know is he's called... Well, before I reveal any more details, let me conduct a quick tinfoil hat rating with a litmus test I've devised. I've got 3 yes or no questions so that the listener can gauge your tinfoil hat rating from a scale of 0 to 10. So in one-word binary answers only, that's yes or no. Was 9/11 an inside job?
No.
Did we land on the moon?
Yes.
Do you believe aliens in spaceships have visited Earth? Yes or no?
Ooh.
You're going to have to try and convince me.
So is it a no?
It's a no at this moment in time.
Okay.
Oh, but there's room for it. There's room there. I like it.
There is
room. There is room.
Yeah, definitely. But I just need convincing.
Okay. You have scored 1.5 out of 10.
That's not my best. That's not my best ever skill.
Is it not? Well, you want to be 0. So I'm a 0 because I don't believe in any of that.
Let me guess. Carlos is a 10.
Carlos is a 10. You're absolutely right.
Is Carlos off the scale?
No. Well, I'm waiting for a guest to try and get 10, and we'll see. So
the only off the scale is my weight at the moment. That's it.
You and me both.
Okay, with a tinfoil hat rating of 1.5, and bearing in mind that according to recent stats, the podcast gets literally more than 1 listener per week. Do you want to tell us who you are and what you do, or would you rather remain anonymous?
Yeah, so I'm Matt. I work in the fire game. So I'm basically a professional arsonist. Um, I've been doing that 23 years. I've got a big interest in space and time travel, but I'm not an expert. So please bear with me if I do get something wrong. We might need fact check Fran on one or two things, but I'll give it my best go.
All right, I don't think anyone is coming here for expert advice. I'm definitely not an expert. I just like to think about things logically.
Speak for
And Carlos
yourself.
speaks
I'm an
anything.
expert. I'm an
Exactly. There we
expert.
go. Carlos is an expert. There we go. Would you like to tell us something interesting about yourself that only one or a few people might know about you?
Right, so there's, I guess, something where lots of people should know about it, but maybe not that it was me. And that was that I once stopped the largest cruise ship ever built from sailing.
And what cruise
Ooh,
ship's that?
I like that.
It
I
was the
like that.
Queen Mary 2.
The Queen
The
Mary
Queen
2.
Mary 2.
And what did you do? Stand in front of it waving a flag?
I used my mental powers and prevented it from moving. No. Basically, in my line of work, a product on board wasn't safe. And due to me being filmed at the time by the BBC and making the 6 o'clock news, I proved to the world that the product was very unsafe, and therefore the ship was stopped and stuck in port.
Okay. What until they refixed whatever it
Uh,
was it?
Until we spent about 30 million quid getting the issue resolved.
And I bet that was £30 million worth of stickers to stick on whatever appliance it was to stop to say this is a fire risk.
Well, if you take a long story short, it wasn't really a fire risk because it was the bathroom shower unit that was made from the wrong material.
Right.
But if you think about it, if there's a fire in the shower, you turn the shower on, so it's not a major concern.
Can I ask you a question there, Matt? Because that's quite interesting. Obviously, I didn't know that, hence why you've said it. But were you under a lot of pressure to sort of oversee that and just like turn the blind eye to it, or were people going, "Well done, Matt. I'm glad you spotted that"? Or were people says, "Do you really?" Or were people putting pressure on you to sort of oversee it, basically, and turn the blind eye?
No, not at all. Basically, there was a company who was um, in place producing products to go on the Queen Mary. And, it was quite a long story, but to cut it short, the guy who had the contract was taken off the job and the job was given to somebody else who had basically was either using the wrong materials to produce the product, which were not fire retardant, or had forged a certificate to get their product on board ship. The first guy wasn't too happy about it and contacted the BBC, who then sent a reporter to the ship and came. Basically, the first thing I knew, they turned up at my business with a product and a film crew, along with the head of Cunard, the owners of the ship, Bureau Veritas, the Maritime Coast Guard Agency, and various other people. And they filmed me burning the product to see what the performance was like. And of course, it was terrible, and therefore everybody then went into a room, and I was left because I was only junior in the business at the time. So I was left with a film crew outside, and I said, basically, what's going to happen now? And he said, well, watch the news tonight. And it was that fast. We got it onto the 6 o'clock news. This was the time of the first Iraq war. So it was the headline bulletin as well. So it beat the Iraq war in
Wow.
terms of getting in there first. And there was my face with my machine burning this product.
It just goes to show there because I bet Carlos was wanted to know, with something like that. And whenever something like that happens in the news or whenever we talk about it with our conspiracy theories, one of Carlos's is, and Nick as well, it's like, well, you imagine the pressure that guy's under there to say yes and just put it through because of how many millions are riding on it. Yeah, that didn't even factor into it. It was just, something came along, you would have to do a quick job. Obviously they obviously bumped up your list, didn't they? You turned up and said, "Can you do this today?" You went, "Yeah, sure you can." You did your job. You went, "Here's the rating." They took the results away and they went, "Well, based on them results, it's not safe. So end off. You're grounded till you fix it."
I don't think everything's a conspiracy, Andy. I don't think there is things that just have it's just a day job kind of thing. And Matt did a fantastic day job because potentially probably saved thousands of people's lives. So no, that's not everything. I think is seen as a conspiracy theory.
time travel. We're going to talk about time travel in a second because it sounds a fun episode, and it just so happens that Matt, you grabbed that one, and for the listeners, Matt is actually my brother, and I'm pretty sure I might have mentioned him when we were discussing 9/11, but I can't remember if it made the cut on the podcast or not. But I mean, I'm always trying to use you as evidence when I talk to Nick about the Twin Tower fires. But let's park it and come back to it. And
Just one point on that: you don't need to use me as evidence. You need to use the evidence as evidence.
well, I've tried that, but they won't believe that. So
Well, I can explain exactly what happened, and that's my game.
But I still think Nick won't believe that because he just can't get his head around. He thinks he's on the side of real world physics, and I know we're digressing. He thinks he's got his head around real world physics, and that the towers should have fell over at a 90-degree angle sideways because he's not really got his head around real world physics. But you can't tell him that because he thinks he has. So it doesn't. So I've often mentioned you, Matt, because I've gone, look, my brother works with fire. My brother's bent steel with fire in office temperatures and blah blah blah.
That's what I do. That's
exactly.
My
but he won't believe me, and he won't believe you when you tell him that either. He just goes, yeah, but the Twin Towers had to be something else. Anyway. Let's pick that back up. Let's talk about some time travel. So let's start off with a fun one. I sent you guys some pictures, and we are going to share these with the guys on live stream that are listening to this interview go out. And for podcast listeners, we're going to put these onto all our social media channels, and they're going to be on the YouTube version and the live stream version of this podcast if you want to check that out and actually see these. But what I'll do is I will describe the images as best I can. Okay, so picture number one is a picture of someone in a black top hat, and in their left hand they're holding up something to their ear as if they're talking on a mobile phone. This is actually a photograph of a frame captured when they were recording Charlie Chaplin's 1928 film, The Circus. It was a silent film back in them days. We didn't have audio. And it looks like a lady dressed all in black, wearing a hat and walking around the set talking on a mobile phone. Is that evidence of a time traveler?
No.
No, it's an interesting debate. It's an interesting picture, and it's an interesting conversation. But
this is one of about 100 I've seen, though. This is just one example. So there's loads of these. You must have seen these, Carlos. There's loads of these.
Yeah, I've seen these before, Andy. And for me, somebody's put the hand up to scratch the hair underneath the hat, and the hand is in the position where you would nowadays hold a phone.
But this was a film. This wasn't. On this one, in the actual film, you actually see them walking for a few seconds with the hand in a static position. Like that. You don't see them lift the hand down or up. They just walk. They're walking around with the hand up like that against the face.
There's been suggestions it could have been some kind of I can't remember what I don't know. I can't remember. Charlie Chaplin was at the 20s and 30s. Charlie Chaplin, or even probably earlier than that.
1928. This was.
Would handheld radios exist then? Small radios. I know Edison was. So the only thing I can think of is some kind of. It could have been some kind of hearing aid. I don't know. I'm just guessing. It's an
like
interesting
those
debate.
Horn things they used to have. Those little horn. They used to have. It's like a horn, wasn't it? That they put.
Yes,
in
there's little. It could have been something like a hearing aid, but it's the because it looks like if you transported that picture and put it down Market Street, you would say that woman is on her mobile phone 100%. Because obviously we're going back 100 years ago. We can't say that, and that's why it's an interesting debate because the features, the way the lady's standing, the way she's walking, the way she's holding the device, it looks like she's holding a mobile phone. Because it looks the way we would hold a mobile phone, and that's why it's given it some kind of credence.
Would they have earphones back in those days? So listening to the recording? Well, if it's Charlie Chaplin, it was
a silent film. It was a silent film.
The only thing I could think of is I just thought of it then. It could be some kind of hearing aid.
Yeah,
it could be a hearing aid. Yeah,
super glue accident.
Possibly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have an explanation, but yeah, doesn't for me, it's not evidence that there's time travelers caught on film for that one anyway. The next image is in Salamanca in Spain. There's a cathedral covered in sculptures, all carved into the sides and into the pillars.
Yes.
And the image you've got there, without a doubt, does look like a modern day spaceman, astronaut,
Yes.
suit, helmet, and everything. So the cathedral was constructed in 1513.
Okay. For me on that one, that could be explained by a diver suit.
Yeah,
Typically, they went over the head and the shoulders and down the body, and there was normally a large pipe which supplied air to them.
yeah, and that is a
And
pretty big pipe in it that's coming up into
yeah,
like his midriff.
But when was this
Is
created? You said 500 years ago.
the cathedral construction was I don't know when it was completed, but its construction started in 1513 maybe. I'm not sure of that date. It could have been it was probably the start of construction rather than the end. I reckon it's been added to over the years. What's your gut on that, Carlos? What do you think about that?
The pack on the front of the sort of, let's call it an astronaut. It looks like an astronaut to me. That looks like it's some kind of electronics device. All depends. Would be when was that carving created? If it was created 20, 30 years ago, that answers our question. But if this carving was, say, 150, 200 years ago, then you start thinking, where was this vision? Where did it come from? Where was the aspiration? Where did it come from? They're the kind of questions, because it's very difficult for an artist to go, I'm just going to put some kind of helmet and a breathing apparatus, and it's clearly the artist behind it, or the mason, or stone carver, what you call them. He was definitely inspired by something, either by a vision or a dream or some kind of premonition. And that's the bit where sometimes these things can be premonitions, because like all of us are all, by the sounds of all of us are all like 8-year-old boys inside men's bodies. If I said to you, draw a picture and do what you want, you'd probably put like space rockets on it and machine guns coming out of it. That's what we do when we're drawing pictures. That's what we do. And artists are the same. They're so creative. So this could be some dream you had, or some premonition, or story of ETs visiting our planet and stuff like that. But it all depends when this carving was done.
Let me stop you there. So yeah, I like your train of thought there at the end where you went, oh, it could have been ETs visiting us rather than a glimpse into the future. There's a little bit more information that was holding back on this picture.
Okay.
So a lot of people do ban this photo around, apparently, that it's proof that time travelers made their way back to that time and started carving. Why they would do that, I'm not sure. However, the truth is that the astronaut, it is an astronaut, uh, is a modern addition to the artwork, and it was carried out by, you might like this, it was carried out by a guy called Geronimo Garcia. Oh,
Oh,
Geronimo Garcia de Quintones,
that explains everything.
and it was
that's it. I told
during
you.
it was during the renovations done in 1992. So yeah, you know,
Oh,
it was definitely after the 60s and stuff. And also looking at that, the weathering on it, if that
Yeah.
was done in the 15 1600s even, the weathering on it, it's too clear. So yeah,
yeah.
it's been proven to be a fake one, that one.
Just to add my thoughts to that, I know the diving suit was invented in 1710, that kind of era. So
Yeah, is it the one
yeah,
where they
I
used to
mean,
float down, used to put like copper on their
Yeah,
feet, and they used to drop down to the bottom and stuff like that?
yeah, yeah.
There's
yeah,
like, yeah, I think I've seen pictures of it where they just literally, it was like a visor on the face, and they just locked the visor down.
I also sent a picture of a time traveling celebrity.
Yes. Is
In
that
fact,
Richard Fallon or something? Or Jimmy Fallon?
it's Jimmy Fallon. Yeah, it's
Okay,
Jimmy
yeah, that's it.
Fallon. On the right, and on the left, it's time traveler Jimmy Fallon who's gone back to. Apparently, the photograph is from 1946.
Okay.
So, and it looks. I mean, there's definitely a resemblance there for sure. But actually, the photograph is a known photograph, and it's actually of a guy called Mir, who was a Marxist Leninist revolutionary leader. And he was born in 1946 and died in 1972. So, I mean, and it's not that far to go back, but obviously it was far enough that it was like black and white picture. It looks like Second World War time era.
And I was saying that this one's also on the internet, saying that this is the same guy. Is this one of the rumors?
Yeah, basically that's what they're saying. I mean, this is just one example. Carlos, you shared on social media ages ago, like I
Yeah,
think was it
about 15, 20 pictures. Yeah, I got Barack Obama. There was Kanye West. There was Jay-Z, Eddie Murphy. Loads of, and literally all the famous people you can think of. The one thing I do know, and this is scientifically, they say on this planet now, there's three people that look like Andy himself. So Andy himself, and there could be someone in the Amazon rainforest, and then someone in deep Africa. And, excuse me. And the same applies to me, and the same applies to you, Matt, as well. So I can imagine that, because there's only so many shapes and sizes we can create of ourselves. So there will be, because I better say, I could show you a picture of my grandfather, and when I seen it, I thought, that's me. That's me. But it's not. It's my grandfather, and it could be used as me as a try. It's basically me. The way it, and my dad says, "Wow."
unless you were yet to time travel, go back into time and live to an old man and get your photograph taken, so that you can now
That's
see it as a younger man.
that's the clever thing. So I know we're talking about time travel, but mathematically, time travel is possible. It's the thing is, we as of yet want to say, yeah, the way you and I and Andy and all that talk, we can't think about it, but I think the facilities are there to time travel at the moment.
Let's come back to the mathematics. One last picture,
Yes,
and I've not got it in front of me, but I did send it to you. So one last picture is the Egyptian hieroglyphics,
yes. Looks like a
where it looks like
helicopter and all that kind of stuff.
helicopter, UFO, and stuff.
Yeah, that's one I can't explain. They do look like futuristic craft, don't they?
Yeah,
One looks like a posh speedboat, and there is a resemblance to a helicopter, an airship maybe, or a flying saucer.
There's a couple of things you can. This doesn't explain time travel. This all says to me, there's a couple of things. It could mean, yeah, time travel. The other thing, which I think the more logical one, is we're not discovering technology. We are just reinventing technology. So I read books where the ancient Egyptians were doing heart transplant, brain transplant, 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, and they had all this wealth of knowledge written down in the Library of Alexandria. And when the Romans sacked Alexander, they literally destroyed all their proprietors' knowledge, and literally wiping out anything between 95, 96, 97% of the world's knowledge, sending us back 5, 10,000 years. Go
I
on,
like that
sorry.
train of thought. I do like that train of thought. You're absolutely right. Again, you could even say maybe they were told by visitors from outer space. I like that. Doesn't have to mean it's time travel. You're absolutely right, Carlos. I do actually know something about this photo. Proper scientists and people that look into hieroglyphs and whatever they're called, archaeologists, have actually worked out that when I mean Egypt has been invaded a couple of times, not just Romans but other villages and stuff. I can't remember what the tribes are called, but the tribes that invaded and ended up taking power of Egypt actually ended up building their own pyramids down in Africa or wherever it was from. I cannot remember what they were called. But what they used to do is they would deface hieroglyphics and statues and stuff and put their own stuff on. And archaeologists have looked at this, and they can actually work out that it's um, all the hieroglyphics have been put in over the top of it, and as they've eroded back, you've sort of got two images superimposing and overlapping. And they've even broken down those shapes to say, oh, actually, this is that symbol, and then this is this other symbol that, and we know both of these symbols are both in the alphabet, and they overlap each other, and they've made that shape. And it's just a straight.
It's interesting how there's one or two there though in close proximity to each other.
I mean, it is, isn't
That
it? It is. But if you If you
It
get a
depends on
load of
which
Scrabble,
story you
if you
believe.
get a load of if you get a load of Scrabble tiles, if you get 2,000 Scrabble tiles and you throw them all up in the air, you're going to get some weird words, aren't you? Who's done a word search and then you finished it? Not a word search. Yeah, sorry,
Crossword.
no, a word search. Who's done a word search and on the back of a kid's menu and you finish finding carrot and burger and pizza and you just start looking for rude words and you go, oh look, someone's just done that. There's a rude word there. You know it. And you can make things out of weird out of shapes, can't you?
No, I agree, because that would be like a sort of like a scientist point of view. But the one thing, like, I do know for a fact, and I've read a lot of Graham Hancock's literature, is like the Egyptians were more advanced than we give them credit for. So I think a lot of this technology could have been, they've invented this technology because we're under the impression they built the pyramids with copper chisels and chicken bones and just manpower, and obviously a rolling wheel. It's a little. I don't. I think I read some stat where if we did that today, it would cost. It would take 2,000 men between 10 to 15 years at a cost of something like £10 billion to do that, and it just shows that they must have had a little bit more technology than what we're giving them credit for, or that we've yet to find.
Cool. All right, let's get more serious. You sent us a couple of stories, didn't you, Carlos? Of
Yeah,
evidence of time
person.
travelers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is
you
this is
think
crucial evidence.
crucial evidence. So, but you're a backer of these stories, aren't you?
Oh,
You think that
I,
the answer is time
I,
travel, yeah?
I believe in time travel. I believe in time travel. Just to clarify, just obviously, I'll keep it short, sweet, and concise. There's a famous story about William Cantello from our part of the world, from down Southampton. He was an engineer, a prolific inventor. He had also had two sons who were engineers, and he was also, I think he got himself into a bit of a debate or a legal battle with a guy called Thomas Edison, because William Cantello said he invented the light bulb, but obviously Thomas Edison's got the credit, but actually he didn't invent it. He actually bought it off someone else, the patent. Well, that's just to show us who William Cantello was. It was a prolific inventor. And then he came up with this idea with a rapid machine gun. It wasn't called a machine gun, but today we call it a machine gun. And he showed his sons, and his sons go, "Wow, this is going to revolutionize war." And there's one thing we know for sure is war makes money, because when you're not buying one unit, you're probably buying thousands or hundreds of thousands of units across the world or across the country. And so he came across this invention, the machine gun. It wasn't called a machine gun, but it was a rapid fire machine. And he was going to say, this is the one that's going to make us famous, it's going to make us rich. And he goes down to his sort of his cellar where he works, and his sons followed him down there, and he walked in some kind of room, and it sort of like a flash went off, and he disappeared. His father disappeared through this room, and his sons sort of thought it was weird and just followed it, but they couldn't find his dad anywhere, and he never comes back. And William Cantello disappears. And then much later, there's a gentleman called Maxim Harim, who's the guy behind the Maxim machine gun. He comes up with practically the same design as William Cantello did. It's literally slightly it's a photocopy, and that's where the story begins. And I think Andy provided some pictures where a picture of William Cantello and a picture of Maxim Harim, they look quite similar. I'm not saying they're identical, but they look quite similar. And the sons start investigating, paying for private eyes to investigate it. And there's a famous story when the two sons meet Maxim Harim at Waterloo train station, and he was saying, "Father, father." Maxim Harim sort of turns around, starts sort of moving away with the train, and the kids are saying, "But you're my father, you're our father." And he says, "I'm not your father, and by the way, I was never born in the Isle of Man." And that's what proves, because nobody knew that William Cantello was born in the Isle of Man apart from his son and his wife. It's not something he talked about. So that added more weight to the story that Maxim Harim was William Cantello. And I think it's this, I read about this when I was about 12, 13-year-old boy. I think the BBC did a story on it about 10, 15 years ago. But that's one of the stories. a famous story which got the attention of obviously the BBC, and lots of story writers have written about it as well. So that's a famous story I provided to Andy and yourself. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I read into that. I didn't go into as much detail as you've just explained, but I did hear about the train station. Could it not be a case that this guy, who I believe was a bit of a philanderer, decided to up sticks, leave his wife, and go away with a young girl, and leave his life behind, much like many men do in this day and age, to be honest.
Yeah,
And when he has
that
been
idea.
spotted, yeah, when he has been spotted at the train station, he's obviously denied that. He may have recognised his sons and denied who he was. Just to get away. There are plenty of gentlemen in this day and age that have upsticked and left their wives and things, especially if they're on the verge of a lottery win, or they just
Yeah.
just won a load of money, and and off they go and set up a new life somewhere by themselves with a young mistress.
This many young men thing that Matthew keeps saying, that's not in reference to any of us three, by the way.
No, I wish.
Yeah. But I remember when you told me about this story last year, Carlos. I had a bit of a look at it because we knew time travel was going to come on. I had a bit of a look at it back then, and I refreshed my memory again the other day. And the accounts that I read, there wasn't actually any sort of discussion on the train station. They ran to the train station, but the train was pulling away. There was no sort of
Yeah,
discussion
there's a
and time
train.
to do
There was a
that.
train that was pulling away, but there's another account where the sons say, as he was pulling away, "Leave me alone," and I wasn't born in the Isle of Man, and that's
Yeah,
another doc.
you
Because
don't know how much gets added to it over the years, do you?
exactly.
Uh,
That's there's
but
one thing, which is one piece of evidence, and this doesn't implied time travel, but it adds sort of weight to the story. His William Cantello's bank account was still active after he was dead. Yes, you could say it could have been his mistress, it could have been his wife,
well,
it could
we
have been
don't
his
know when
sons.
we don't know when he died,
Yeah,
but after he went missing. So I mean that makes sense, right? So, uh, but also, you know, he could have been he could have been kidnapped and people were forced the details of his bank account and we're just using a bank account. But I mean, there's lots of reasons why he could have gone missing. But just this is just my take on it. So you're absolutely right about him, and he apparently, according to his sons, because that's all we got to go on, he was working on this early machine gun build,
yeah,
and the
like a
story
rapid
was
machine fire. Yeah,
yeah,
they
he would
call it.
go to his basement and the sound of gunshots could be heard by his family and neighbors and stuff like that. Um, the thing about him walking into a light, don't know where that came from. First time I've heard that, but again, the version I've got is when I was looking is that he left his house one day and never returned. So like, I'm going off to sell this machine gun. We're gonna be famous, kids. When I come back, he packed a bag, traveling bag or whatever, and that was it. He was never seen again. So, yeah, I mean, they don't know when he actually went missing because obviously going back to the 1880s, which is when this was, it's very difficult to have paper records and travel records and all that sort of stuff and have access to it other than maybe bank records maybe kept back in the day. So yeah, he might have been living off his bank or clearing it out, or he'd met someone, or yeah, just exactly as our Matt said. The thing that makes it the time travel story is that then you've got Sir Hiram Maxim
Yeah,
turns up 30 years later, November 1916, just around about World War One time, isn't it? Just after World War One, and he's got this invention, the machine gun, and it's not just an invention. It's he's called it the Maxim machine gun, right? And he's credited as the inventor of the rapid firing belt fed machine gun, basically, which bears his name. Um, One thing that throws doubt on the old going into a cellar, going into the basement, and firing a rapid firing machine gun is the fact that gunpowder back at that time, even the gunpowder in 1916, 30 plus years later, 35 around years later, the gunpowder at that time produced far too much smoke to be used for testing in a closed environment like a cellar. You set off 2 or 3 muskets back, in a cellar back then, you just wouldn't be able to see anything. Never mind a belt-driven machine
Unless
gun.
he had air conditioning. He might have invented air conditioning as well. You never.
Okay. Well, this guy was brilliant. So that throws a little bit of doubt for me on the whole machine gun in the cellar type thing. But you never know. Another thing is, when Maxim came over, he was talking to a lot of people. So there is documented sighting of the daughter. I can't remember what the daughter's name was, but the daughter of a guy called Philip Barron. He was another engineer in Southampton, and he'd invented some sort of new propeller for ships that was more efficient or something or other. But she is reported to have said that Maxim, because she warned her dad off talking to Maxim, because she said Maxim has got a reputation for brain sucking, as in he'll have a chat with
Stealing
you,
ideas.
he'll steal your idea.
Yeah.
Is that what's happened? Is that what happened to Cantello? And he maybe got bumped off or something again for money. Maxim's a clever man. I'm not saying Maxim bumped him off, but
just to add to that story, because there's a famous story when because Cantello is not saying it's a common name, but there's a Cantello which a member of the William Cantello family moved to America, and then Maxim Harim talking about there's a guy who's pretending to be me and trying to steal my ideas.
in his autobiography, Maxim complained of a double who was going around the US impersonating him. Was it Cantello? Was it Maxim's own twin brother? He had a twin brother. Did you know that? Who looked
He had a
very
brother. I
similar
didn't know
to
it was twin.
him. He also supported an enormous Victorian beard. So
Yeah, they all tended to look the same back then. That was the way, wasn't it?
yeah, I mean, looking at the photos, I mean, the one that gets banded around is the one that's just of the two of them.
Yes.
And you can see that Maxim's obviously a lot. This photo is a lot.
Yeah, because there's
older
about 20, 30 years apart there, you can tell
Yeah.
at least.
than the last known. I think it might be the last known photo of Cantello, because obviously he disappeared 30 years earlier, and in that photo you could say looks about 30 years more younger. I mean, if you look at the eyes, there's similarities.
Yeah,
But
the
in
way
my
they slant.
opinion, but in my opinion, Cantello's got larger ears. Maxim's got a more bulbous nose. Cantello's receding more than Maxim, even though the Maxim photo is supposedly of the same person 30 years on, as he had hair transplant. They've both got large Victorian beards, which disfigure, not disfigures, but it hides the actual true features of what's underneath the lower part of your face. I did a Google search on both the guys, and I managed. So on the where you've got the 4 of them, it's Maxim on the left, old guy, young guy, and then you've got Cantello on the right, the last known picture, and a younger picture of Cantello, even though it's a clearer image. And I just a quick Google image search to find those, and I put them together, thinking that you could compare the younger one of Maxim with the older one of Cantello, because they're more the same age. But again, top and bottom, they have more similarities than left and right. I think again the same thing with the ears and stuff. So for me, it just doesn't match. And I think that the younger version of Cantello looks a lot like
Colonel Sanders. It looks like Colonel Sanders a bit.
No, the young one, the bottom right picture.
Colin Farrell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you not think it looks like Colin Farrell? That
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe Colin Farrell went back in time, went into a cellar, disappeared, married someone else, changed his name to Maxim, and he's now got a machine gun.
You joke, but what's that film called? What Colin Farrell did, where they predict the future? What's it called? Minority Report. Where he can see. Is it Minority Report? Yeah. Oh, you know.
He's the bad guy. He's the bad guy in Minority Report, isn't he?
Yeah. See, you joke, but you're true.
Don't forget you can leave us a review on iTunes and we will mention it on the show, or send us an audio message to get your voice on air. You can ask us or say anything you like. Check out the links on our social media for our merch store, Each purchase will contribute 50 pence towards supporting the podcast. Also, subscribing to our YouTube and Twitch channels, or sharing this podcast with friends is very much appreciated.
I'm glad you've moved on to films because there's some good sci-fi. There's some good time travel films.
Oh,
There
there's
are
some
some
brilliant time. But I tell you what, this would make a great film. This the BBC did a documentary on it, but I think it would be a great film. This a really good film.
So yeah. Anyway, I think we're probably going to call that one. Well, again, Carlos, you're
Oh, I'm
yeah,
convinced. I'm convinced.
you're convinced. Yeah, but I don't think you convinced me or on that there.
I think Matt's convinced.
So I don't see where the time travel element comes in at all with that one, to be honest.
Yeah, it could just be a guy, like you say, he's run off, changed his name.
The same
You're
idea
absolutely right.
created twice by two different people. That's the bit where the idea was practically identical.
Not
And
even that. Why couldn't it be that William has just become Maxim? He's gone off, disappeared, started a new life, new name, new money, knowing that he's going to make a lot of money from this invention.
With his 16-year-old girl he was with.
Yeah. Project Pegasus, then, Carlos. That was the other one. So I mean, this
Yeah.
one, there's a guy called Andrew. Can't remember his name.
Basiago.
And he's knocking around now, isn't he? So
Yeah, he's still around.
surely
Yeah.
there must be loads of evidence that he's some sort of time traveler. What's he up to then?
Isn't he going for president of the United States?
That's what I saw. Yeah.
There was a rumor. Yeah, there was a rumor flying out, and then someone says, "Well, if you're the president, you should know what the outcome is because you can go into the future." Somebody said to him.
There's a bit of history with the American president being a bit of a nutcase, though, isn't it?
Yeah, that goes right back to the conversation before we started the podcast, which will be in the bloopers for the listeners. So feel free to listen to that to get your Trump fix.
But I'll just lead on this one again. The Andrew Basiago spelled Basiago. If I'm mispronouncing it, I apologise. I'm assuming it's Italian, I think. So how this story comes about is Andrew said he works for the CIA and DARPA, and he was probably, they say he was sort of like groomed from a young age because he had this special psychic ability. From the age of 5-6 years old, he's groomed to have this kind of special gift where he could actually use telekinesis, and he had special powers which made him stand out amongst other children of his age. And he was developed, and in how he was told he was working for DARPA and the CIA. And the famous story, there's a couple of famous stories he talks about. He went back in time to watch the Gettysburg War, and also he was taken back to watch the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. Obviously, they're the ones he could talk about, but the ones he couldn't talk about is the ones where the CIA ops, where they were getting him to sort of like, I won't say remote access, where you can just sort of like remote access into different parts of the world without you physically being there. He talks about all that. And he's done lectures. I've watched many videos of it, him talking about it. I've watched, obviously, read articles, and I've seen him talk about himself.
Isn't he a senator right now? And is he not? Is he maybe the nut job that signed that bit of paper that went in on about COVID-19 to say release evidence on aliens?
That I don't know. I don't know about that.
I've been watching. I did a bit of research on this, and I've been listening to him, and
he's on Facebook as we speak now.
On YouTube. Yeah, it's something to do with these bases on the east coast and west coast of America, and this gateway they'd come up with to teleport across, and then they started from the teleportation. They went back in time as well, or forward in time. And the history of this started, there was this guy, and there was someone else who worked on the same project who he's got in touch with recently.
Was it, Matt? What weren't these teleports based on some sort of energy Tesla discovered or something? Apparently, that's what I remember from reading about it.
Yeah, Tesla was involved, or they're saying it was based on Tesla inventions or powertrains. But the thing I've got an issue with regarding to this teleportation and time travel is when this guy's saying it all started happening from 1940 or just after the Second World War. Can you imagine the computations required, even if this technology was possible to get somebody from one location to another location on Earth, and even more computations required to get from that particular location to another location, but back in time. Now, there was stories about, lots of people were used from Southern America to test this out and send these people through there, and a lot of people died before they started to send him through this teleportation device.
And wasn't he like 8 years old, Matt? Because kids could cope with the pressure of time travel, according to this guy.
Yeah, that's how he was groomed at a young age.
Yeah, but it was his father that was involved in the project who then got him into it. And the same happened with another one, this other guy that he's met up with. Now, I'm sure it was his uncle in this case that was just casually taking him at 8 years old into this top secret base where they were teleporting people through time and space. Would they trust an 8-year-old just to go in there? I mean, could you imagine an 8-year-old being taken into Area 51?
Everyone back then, Matt, had a day where you take your kids to work.
Seriously? And if time travel was possible, and this guy's spouting all the rubbish now, why has nobody gone back in time and shut this guy up before he started to spout?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Surely the CIA don't want this guy. If this is true, the CIA don't want this guy, given the amount of detail he has online about the projects that they were running. So if time travel was possible, why have they not just made this guy disappear?
Why didn't they go back to when he started putting this online, the day before he put it online, and do something about it and make him disappear like other people that invent these zero energy machines disappear?
It's a good point that Matt. I never thought about that, but then I think about he probably wasn't the only person who was being trialed and doing this, but maybe there was another 20, 30 people. But because these other 29, 30 probably put stories out there, but it's not as flamboyant. The one thing I will take on board is sometimes these people add a little bit of juice to the story.
This guy's added a lot of juice, hasn't he? I mean,
exactly. So because it's like
he's got so much detail, it's unreal, and that's why I can't believe this guy's not been shut up. He's coming out with all kinds of embellishments about what's happened.
The fact that he's in a government position is so scary as well, isn't it?
I mean, he's even claimed that Barack Obama was one of the other 20 kids, which the government had to deny.
I've not seen that one. I'm going to have to look that one. Thank you for writing that one down. I didn't know that one.
I saw that one.
Yeah,
I saw that one.
That had to be denied in a few years ago publicly, that Barack Obama wasn't a time traveling guy who spent time on Mars.
Did you also see that he went back to the assassination of which president was it? Was it Lincoln?
Oh, Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln. Yeah, he went back to Lincoln.
He said he went back there multiple times, and in one occasion even met himself, and he thought his cover was going to get blown.
Yes, because he seen himself as a little kid, didn't he, or something? As a kid.
He was always as a kid, because apparently he was 8 years old when this was happening, and that's why he was. He could get into places and not be questioned because it was just a little kid running around.
That would mean reincarnation exists, then, wouldn't it?
No. It means if time travel exists, you go back to a time, then you come back to the future, then tomorrow you go, I'm going to go back to 1816 again, or whatever the date is. You go back to exactly the same date, just like Marty does in Back to the Future. He's at the Under the Sea Ball twice. Once he's on stage, once he's in the rafters, dropping stuff on the lights and stuff, isn't he?
Yes.
But talking about going back, I mean, he says, I went back and I met myself, right? There's a guy called Dr. E. Brown. On the subject of meeting your future or past self, the encounter could create a time paradox, the result of which could cause a chain reaction that would unravel the very fabric of time and space continuum and destroy the entire universe.
Right, yeah, but that sounds a lot like Emmett Brown, doesn't it?
It is, Matt. It's Doc Emmett Brown, yeah. You're absolutely right. But I'll take his word over anyone.
Let's take a step backward on this, guys. Right.
Go.
So I mentioned earlier about the computations required.
Yeah.
And this started happening after Second World War. We had just invented the first computer, which was the size of a house to do 20 calculations a day. How many calculations would you need to do in 1950, 1955, and how would they do that in order to get the computations right in order to move somebody through space and time? And consider this, right? I want to go back in time by 1 hour, but I want to stay in the same building that the time machine is in. Even if the time travel was possible, the building would not be there once I'd arrived. It would be approximately 56,000 miles away, the speed that the Earth goes around the Sun. And that isn't even taking into account that the Sun's travelling around the Milky Way at 500,000 miles an hour,
Yeah.
and how fast the Milky Way itself is moving. How did they do that with no computers?
It's a good question. I've got an answer for that because I've thought about that, and a while back is
You've solved the maths, Carlos, have you?
I've done the mathematical equations here. No, okay. We could give Jesus Christ we could say if we give Jesus Christ and his apostles a motorbike with a full engine, full tank of petrol, and the keys, and leave it there with him, they would know. They would gradually ride the bike. At some point, they would ride the bike, but they wouldn't know how the bike was created, where we got these instruments, where the petrol or diesel was taken from. So
I see where you're going.
So we could have discovered some kind of machine. Whereas, because Bob Lazar talks about when he was working for Area 51, because you alluded to Area 51 before, that he was working on a craft, which it was some kind of archaeological dig. So we could have found let's call it a gateway. We could have found some kind of stargate or a gateway. We know what it does, but we just don't know how it was created or how it came to be in there. So that's the analogy I'd probably give on that one.
Right, so they've just found this gateway, and they made another one halfway across the world.
Oh, there could be different gateways around the world. Where there's rumors, as it were, all these these gateways in Iraq, these gateways
conveniently near air bases or military bases in America.
Or maybe that's where they built the air bases near these stargates. Because if you look at it, all these historically, all our UFO sightings, when I say the ones like hundreds of thousands which are documented every year, they're always near air bases. They're always near. So maybe it could be some kind of portal or some kind of energy point which is attracting people. I'm not saying that's the answer, but it would add validity to the point where we give Jesus Christ, or if we give Christopher Columbus a submarine, he'd probably go in it and he probably might start the engine, but he wouldn't know how it was created.
Yeah. Or if you give someone an iPhone 30 years ago, 100 years ago, you don't have to go that far back with technology, and it's like, oh, I don't understand that.
3 old kids can use an iPhone.
Yes,
3 old kids can use an iPhone, can't they? But they don't know how to make one.
So the thing is, the answer to your question is probably not something we created. We've probably stumbled across it.
We found one. Okay. Yeah. What about all the guys on Mars? Apparently, there are 3 types of alien on Mars that he's met.
What do you know the brands or the makes of them, or what species, if you want to call them?
Is it Mari?
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't write these down.
Did you say Maui? That's
Mari.
Is that the same name as the cigar shaped what come into our solar system about 3 years ago and come out? Maui.
No, it's Mari as in Mars.
Okay.
There's one called Testra Mari or something like that. And there's another one that when you land, you've got to be careful because they might eat you. So yeah, he was basically saying that one of them is descendants of Earth.
Okay.
And a bit about 10,000 years ago, we kind of split, a bit like the Neanderthals.
Okay.
And they're on Mars, and now they're similar to us. They're the humanoid. There's another one which you've got to be careful around because it's like
reptilians
walking in,
like reptilians.
A cat walking. You didn't say that. No, they said they're all humanoid.
Okay. But they're carnivorous.
It's a bit like a cat would walk in front of a dog. You've got to be very careful and keep your eyes behind you, otherwise you might get eaten.
Okay.
And there was other monsters on Mars that would eat you. But all of these places, or all of these people, this million people, he said, are all underground, so we can't see them with our satellites.
Makes total sense to me.
It's just this guy is, for me, is a lunatic who's got some power.
Crazy man. I think we can definitely call this one.
Yeah, I believe it. It's true. It's true. Definitely true.
I think 100%. 100%, Matt. Yeah, you in agreement with me? It's 100% bollocks.
Is the guy a lunatic? Probably. I don't know him, but do I believe the story behind it? Yes, I believe the story behind it.
One last thought: why do these time traveling machines all have to look like a Japanese Tory? And that's how this guy describes it. And did you know what a Japanese Tory is?
No, I don't want
What's
to know.
what's a Japanese story? What is it?
You know, when you go to see a Japanese temple,
Yes.
Yeah.
it's the archway that you see at the gate. So it's like a
right, okay.
cross piece with the two legs,
Right.
or curved arches that go in. And the way this guy describes it is just off like a film set.
Right.
And apparently, now this is another thing. This thing is plugged in like it's plugged in with a normal laptop plug. That's all it needed.
A 2-pin US plug.
A 2-pin US plug is all that plugs this into the power source.
Before we end on a high, I was going to discuss The Simpsons, but quickly just back on maths.
Oh, I've got one last bit.
Go on,
You've
Matt.
got
Go
one
on, sorry.
Well, time itself doesn't run at the same speed, does it? It's frame specific. So if I'm traveling on an airplane, I'm actually on a land. I'm actually younger than you are. If you know what I mean.
If you didn't, it's speed and gravity specific, isn't it?
So the
It's
people
impact-
on the people on the International Space Station are technically 2 seconds in the future because of the speed. They travel at 16,000 miles an hour. They're 2 seconds into the future.
No, they're behind.
They're just aging less than us.
So they're aging. 2 seconds less than us. Aging 2 seconds less than us. That's what I meant to say.
So depending on the speed that we're going around the world, around the sun and everything else, time is one thing for us. But it's not possible to say, well, what's happening now on Alpha Centauri, because their time is different to our time.
But again, that's a trick of speed, though, isn't it?
No, it is. We've tested that. Back when I was about 16, I watched
Carl Sagan,
Open University. No, the thing they have on at Christmas, the Royal Institution Christmas lectures.
Oh, okay.
They actually proved it on there. They had 2 atomic clocks, and they timed them and stopped them at the right time. They don't stop at the same time, but you can see the difference between the 2 clocks. And then they sent one around the world on a plane, and they kept one in the office, and they brought the other one back, and it was like God knows how many milliseconds behind. So it is, by traveling fast, it is possible not to age, and therefore you can travel into the future once you come back to where you started from. Again, because that's frame specific. If you don't come back to where you started, then you don't actually get that time travel element.
And also, the speeds you would have to reach to make any sort of difference, and then there's no way to try and travel backwards. It's a trick of speed. Let's end on a high anyway. Let's go. So, Simpsons get a lot of credit for predicting the future, don't they?
That's the famous one. Is they did the Donald Trump, didn't they? They did the Twin Towers.
First example, Donald Trump presidency was predicted in season 11. Back to the Future was the episode where Disney buys 20th Century Fox. That they predicted that in 1998, and it happened in 2017. They predicted smartwatches. So in 1995, which is 20 years before the Apple Watch, and about 15 years.
So did Star Trek, though, didn't they?
They didn't put it on the wrist, though, did they? They didn't put it on the wrist, but they predicted mobile phones. Yeah. But okay, so Star Trek, they were good, and it was their job to go, what would we have in the future? But Simpsons, I mean, you can Google it and you can go, the 15 times they got it right, predictions that Simpsons got right, the 30 times that Simpsons got predictions right. There's loads of these articles.
Yeah, they got the things like they got. There was famous one they got with the Ebola outbreak, didn't they, in Africa and stuff like that.
Yeah,
there was famous ones. Do you think that's just? I'm not saying this as a time driver. Do you think it's very, very creative writers at hand there?
Well, they come up with 10,000 ideas, don't they? And they put so many in the show, and then so many might come off. It's a bit like Nostradamus, isn't it? And you can affect the future by what you say now. So they come up with an idea which, Donald Trump is going to be president of America, but then that plants something in somebody's mind. So when he does come and go for the presidency, it's already there that, oh yeah, we could vote for him and get him in.
Let's wrap up. Matt, we'd like to thank you for coming on the podcast. Is there anything you would like to plug? For example, where can our listeners find out more about you if they wanted to? Totally optional. You don't have to say, like your Twitter handle or something like that.
Have you got a book coming out, Matt? A book or anything like that, or a novel?
Yeah, how to play pool.
How to play pool.
Yeah, so going back to Pool King of Warrington right at the top of the interview, he's a very good pool player. Last but not least, is there one single fact or theory from any of our previous episodes, assuming you've listened to any of them, that you'd want to set either myself, Carlos, or Nick straight on?
Yeah, definitely. Well,
Okay, this is your 2-minute section. You can say what you want, and we're just going to shut up and we'll
Yep.
end the interview there. But go for it, Matt.
okay, well, let's talk about the Twin Towers, the good old battleground that you guys had some time ago. Well, it just so happens that Andrew, your brother, works in this line of business and is one of the key people in keeping the world safe when it comes to high-rise buildings. So basically, the Twin Towers collapsed. Now, if you consider a high-rise building and how they're constructed, this one in particular, which was constructed with a skeleton, which ran through the centre of the building where all the elevator shafts were, and then the outside of the building was kind of bolted onto that. So the way a high-rise building and the construction is protected is utilising a fire incandescent paint. So all of the metalwork that holds that building together has this coating on there. Now, this coating is applied, can be as little as 1 to 2 millimeters in thickness. So you don't actually see much of the product when it's installed, and it's just like a paint as if you would paint the outside of a door frame. But when it's subjected to heat, this incandescent paint does as it says, and it incandesces to approximately between 80 and 100 mil thick, and it turns into like a fire foam, if you like, and that insulates that metal from any of the heat, and therefore should keep it, structurally sound. Now, unfortunately, they're not designed to take the impact of an aircraft full of 30,000 kilograms of fuel, and they're not designed normally for hydrocarbon fuel attack. They're normally a different type, which goes up to about 1,000 degrees when they're fire tested. Whereas a hydrocarbon would normally be 1,400 degrees, 1,600 degrees. So these products would have worked in a normal office fire with the calculation of the heat output of the office furniture and so on. But they're not designed to take such a massive amount of fuel on board, which would have been potentially 2,000 to 3,000 degrees, that fire at its peak. So they're also not designed to take the impact of an aircraft, which when it comes through a window of a building and hits this metal core, it's going to actually knock off the vast majority of that paint coating in the first instance. So it's no longer there to do its job and protect the building. Combine that with the twice the amount of heat it's designed to take, you are going to get softening of that metal structure, that steel core, fairly rapidly, and it's going to overcome its natural strength. We do tests at our laboratory where we measure the strength of the steel with this coating on, and you can see quite clearly when we do the test runs without the coating that the metal bends, and that bends at up to 1,000, 1,200 degrees, even though it doesn't become really molten. So this plane's hit the building. You've got a massive fire. You've got half of the paint missing from the girders and the steel structure, and it's softened and it's collapsed from the inside because that's where the structure of the building was. It was all built around the core. So as soon as that core melts, then the 50,000 tons above that's putting pressure down on this steel work, it's just going to go down and go down in the way it did, like a cake. And the weight of the 50,000 tons is going to take out each and every row below it as it falls and as it gathers momentum and as it gathers more weight. So the way it collapsed was absolutely as you would expect.
I just took myself off mute then because I wanted to really listen to that, because obviously we can actually safely say you are an expert in this subject. That's why I try to put myself on mute and just listen to it. Thank you.
We have the world's largest fire lab who test this structure. We are the busiest fire lab in the world that actually looks after intumescent paints and protection of high rise. So I've been doing that for 23 years. So I know a little bit about what happened in the Twin Towers.
So yeah, thanks for coming on, Matt. Really like that.
I really appreciate that, Matt. I think I befriended the wrong brother. I should have been your friend, not Andy's friend.
Stick around for some bloopers and outtakes, and if you have enjoyed this, please give us a like and subscribe.
Oh yeah, we could add the bloopers back in. I've missed the bloopers. I went for a piss. I forgot to put myself on mute. I was like, but
Just started to hit the record button, Carlos, because that might make it in the bloopers, that bit.
I did notice that, Andy.
Oh yeah, I thought it was a conspiracy. I thought that was because I thought the FBI would fucking shutting us down and stuff like that.
I'm definitely getting an echo again, you know.
I'm all right. Oh yeah, I got an echo there. I got an echo.
That's gonna annoy me when I'm editing. If I can hear the echo. It's happened to me before.
Okay, here's what I found.
Oh shit, Siri. Go on, that's it.
You'll also notice that Carlos's sound waves are massive, and he always has been. I don't know why. He just booms.
My voice is just so powerful. I'm like Donald Trump. It's just.
I know. Are you banned on Twitter as well then?
No, I'm not banned on Twitter. They won't silence me. They can't silence two gods. But I have got, just before we start, I have been getting into a lot of trouble because I'm not saying I'm pro Trump, but I don't like the way all these big tech companies have just shut him down and banned him from all platforms. And
Carlos, I'll say one thing. His one tweet's just got 4 people killed. Is that a good thing?
A fifth one, because but the problem is how many then you can say about other tweets where tweets of both sides, because obviously what he's done is he's galvanized.
It's bullshit. It's lies.
Oh, some of it's bullshit, but the thing is, some of it's bullshit. But I think it's something like, the way I look at it, if someone's bullshit, you shut them down with intellect, like Tommy Robinson. Tommy Robinson, what? I remember I know before we start, I remember Tom Robinson that he was talking a lot of shite. And one, I can't remember that guy, that rap artist, and Akala, I think he's called Akala or something like that. Instead of saying, oh, don't shut up, listen to it, he just completely destroyed him with intellect. And Tommy Robinson looked stupid. So what you do is destroy these people with intellect. That's what I've always thought, destroy them with intellect.
The trouble is, Carlos, Twitter isn't that sort of platform. You're not having a one-to-one debate with someone. And all the Trump supporters or whoever can just run with what he said and ignore all the other stuff.
What state's the world got into when he's the most powerful man in the world and he's got no intellect whatsoever? He's dangerous in every respect.
I agree.
And
I agree.
Lie after lie after lie.
I agree. I agree. If they are stamping down, just like YouTube did on like David Icke's video and some other things, if they're stamping down on known bullshit, even if 10% of it is true, even if 50% of it is true, doesn't matter. What they're doing is they're stopping at 50% complete and utter bullshit, and they know it's complete and utter bullshit, and it's the right thing to do because there are too many idiots in the world, especially in America. Sorry, America, but just looking at the pictures of people running. What about that guy that's died? That is tasing himself in the bollocks. No. Some guy armed to the hilt. There's a picture of him on the internet holding 2 looks like semi-auto machine gun type things. Has died of a heart attack in these protests because he accidentally tasered himself in the balls. I'm not joking. I'm not joking. I literally saw it this morning.
People like that don't deserve to be alive. You know what I mean?
Anyway, all that stuff's brilliant, and it's going to go in the bloopers, that conversation, I think. In the outfit.
Matt, this is the bit where Andy and I have these conversations, but sometimes you get a third input, and it makes me and Andy digress into other directions. It's good. That's why I love speaking to Andy all the time and love the podcast.
Yeah, Carlos, after our conversations, I just cry. That's not what I wanted to say.
Cry with laughter or cry with love because you miss me so much.
I think the tears of pain and sorrow, I think. We don't sound too alike, do we, Carlos? Are you going to be able... Do you think punters will tell me and Matt?
Oh yeah, you sound completely different. Completely. Matt sounds like he's got intellect. You don't.